Hello and welcome, or welcome back if you have been spending the morning with us. My name's Sarah Ratcliffe and I am your host for this session. I'm going to be joined by Carrie and Gent from Mind Tools for Business with Emerald Works, and they're going to be talking to you about how you can use the Learning Performance Benchmark to really enhance your L&D. So I'm going to hand it over to them now. Carrie, Gent, away you go.
Hello, everyone. Hope you're having a great Friday. So we're going to talk about the Learning Performance Benchmark today. And first question is, what is the Learning Performance Benchmark? Well, the Learning Performance Benchmark is a community-driven and research-led diagnostics tool. This tool has a deep legacy within the industry and the community, starting with towards maturity and continuing with Mind Tools. It has been supporting and guiding the L&D industry and profession in measuring the impact for almost 2 decades now. But what do we mean by community-driven? The LPB is the only free, independent, and confidential comparison tool available for L&D senior leaders. We make sure to not share data with any third-party organization. Indeed, the Learning Performance Benchmark team and the research team itself operate separately from our commercial team here at Mind Tools for Business. So our sole aim remains to ensure that L&D as a profession and as an industry is evidence-led and is having real positive impact in the organizations. We are strongly committed to these principles. You can actually find our ethical statement on our website for more details about how we treat data and what our guiding principles are. We believe in data for good. The data that we collect actually is also used to write research reports that are freely available to the community. So for example, we produce the annual L&D benchmark report based on the data we collect from the Learning and Performance Benchmark. Here are some examples of organizations that do it continuously. These organizations have given permission to us to use their logo and name, and you can see there's a variety of small, large, public, private, non-for-profit organizations, and they see a lot of value as a result of it. So when we think about research-led, we think of the Learning Performance Benchmark as pushing boundaries, challenging strong-held beliefs within organizations and really changing minds. In terms of the research-led kind of function, the LPB is continuously re-evaluated and developed in partnership with academia and methodology specialists, L&D professionals, business leaders, and subject matter experts. Our longitudinal quantitative measures and qualitative questions are based on empirical academic research. We also work with a range of public bodies such as the CIPD to ensure that we're kind of capturing what is important to learning and development professionals. It's super important for us. Ultimately, our aim the aim of the Learning Performance Benchmark is to support L&D in building a multi-level understanding of their organizational learning. The LPB helps L&D shift their language from learning, which is a process, to performance, which is an outcome. It's about broadening the definition of what learning is, which is based on which kind of based on our analysis of our longitudinal data is a fundamental step to maturing as a function. Such a shift we find is accompanied by a plethora of other positive changes. I'm going to hand over now to my colleague Kerry, who will walk you through a bit more about what the LPB does.
Thanks, Gent. So over the last year, we at Mind Tools for Business have been working tirelessly to provide the maximum value to you as an L&D professional. This has resulted in a powerful, all-encompassing portal to guide you through your benchmark, and I'm excited to share with you a sneak peek before we launch next month. To get started, all you'll need to do is sign up for an account. Because it's community-driven and an important piece of research for the global L&D industry, there is no charge to you. We recognise the value you're giving needs to be reflected in what you get back. Before signing up, you're given an opportunity to understand what information you'll need, how it works, and how we use your data, so you know that everything you enter is confidential and secure. Once you've signed up, you'll be guided through the portal, which is broken up into 2 halves. First, there's your learning performance review, and once this has been completed, you'll be taken to your results. This is what your review looks like. Down the left-hand navigation, you can see how it's been split into 5 different sections, covering your organisation, vision, resources and impact, strategy and practice, technology and tools, and finally challenges. As you work your way through, we've provided hoverovers for why do we need this information, so you can see the context of how we're using your answers to create your scoring. Your progress is automatically saved, so you don't need to worry about losing your answers if you get interrupted by day-to-day life. You can also see how close you are to completing the review as you progress. To provide you with robust, detailed, and evidence-led results, our review has to be thorough and reflective. We don't believe we can provide accurate guidance on your L&D strategy on a limited number of questions. This is why we aim to gain a 360 understanding of all things related to organisational learning. It does take time to work your way through and consider your answers, but we also know life is busy. In between meetings, the doorbell going, or keeping on top of emails, being able to commit to completing your review in one sitting may not be possible. Which is why, on completing each section, we have provided you with clear breaks where you can get away from the screen, make a cup of tea, and collect the information you'll need for the next section. It's on your timetable, not ours. Once you've made your way through and you're all done, we'll ask if you'd like to join our L&D community, where you'll have the opportunity to meet other members of the benchmark and knowledge share across a vast network of leaders and experts. And with one click, your results will be calculated and you'll be led to our dashboard of results. Reflective of the review, we offer in-depth analysis with your results, which is why our summary page is broken into 4 different sections, allowing you to do a deeper dive into each one. 2 research-heavy areas are the Learning Maturity Score and the Learning Maturity Stage, and Genkin can explain a little bit more of this.
Thanks, Kerry. The learning maturity score is just another word for us for the index that we look at. So we've been tracking this for over 18 years, formerly known as the Towards Maturity Index. In research reports, we refer to as the Organizational Learning Index. It is an aggregate measure of 96 strategic behaviors that are strongly correlated to growth, productivity, successful transformation, and profitability, or sustainability for public sector or not-for-profit sector. In terms of the maturity stages, in 2017, we decided to analyze 15 years worth of data that we collected to set a baseline for the industry and the profession. In the midst of this analysis, we noticed that there are some clear delineations between organizations when it comes to their approach, their behaviors, their strategic orientation, digitalization, and culture. And as a result, we ran a number of statistical tests to cluster organizations based on these things I just mentioned. The result is the maturity model. Over to you, Kerry.
Thanks. So this is an example of a deeper dive into the Learning Maturity Score. Another advantage of the LPB is that if you complete it more than once over a number of years, we show you how your strategy has evolved over time in comparison to those in the benchmark. On the right, you can see how the Learning Maturity Score has evolved over the last 4 years. You can filter by your industry, your organisation size, and your region. Over to you again.
Sorry, Kerry, thanks. Because the score is calculated based on 96 strategic behaviors, highlighting all of these in the dashboard is not really feasible. So we wanted to group these together in a way that makes sense. We use a statistical method called confirmatory factor analysis. It's part of a dimensional reduction family of methods to group these behaviors in a meaningful way. And the result is 6 key areas to focus on, which one of which you're seeing on screen.
We've also provided you with key questions to consider across the top so you can begin to shape your strategy. Throughout your results, we offer quick, impactful takeaways as well as key behaviours to be proud of, so you can see not only where to improve, but what you're doing well. It's important to recognise where you're demonstrating the most value. The Learning Maturity stage shows you in more detail how the collective benchmark is positioned. You can see here the majority of users are in the service impact stage of their maturity journey, so don't be discouraged if you find yourself in stage 1. We provide you with actionable insights on how to advance to the next stage of your learning maturity, working towards that all-important high-impact learning culture. Remember, these insights aren't based on our hunch either. They're evidence-based advice collected from years of data from the highest achievers within the benchmark. Navigating your way through the overall participant trends will also provide recommended reading for you. These link to previous reports written by Towards Maturity and more recently our in-house research team. These cover topics that will directly impact your areas of focus based on your score. So, no matter where you are on your maturity journey, we've got you covered to get you to the next stage and work towards creating a high-impact learning culture within your organisation. We understand the different challenges that affect businesses, no matter your shape or size. And finally, once you've come up with your action plan, you can log back in at any time to see when the next benchmarking season is open, our latest report, and of course, to look through your results again should you need to.
So I think the final question really is, what does the learning performance benchmark enable L&D to do? And we've picked out around 6 key benefits of doing the LPB. Each of these, we believe, help learning and development leaders and their teams mature and move from a transactional impact phase to transformational impact. So starting from the first one, measuring the impact of your strategy over time, we find that in the majority of L&D teams and leadership, there is a lack of measures of success, especially in collaboration with business leaders. This tool will help you look at it from their perspective, from your perspective, from an employee's perspective, but also from a technology, cultural, and also process perspective as well. In terms of finding a common language with the C-suite, we know that learning sometimes can be a very fuzzy word. And so we have tried our best to quantify it, not just based on learning, but organizational learning, which is a multi-level look at performance, how performance is related to learning, and how learning is related to performance. In terms of generally how people feel when they do this, we know that 97% of those participating in the learning performance benchmark say that just going through these questions gave them ideas and food for thought. I would encourage any L&D team or L&D leadership to do the LPB continuously to see how they are improving all the time.
So the new Learning Performance Benchmark is launching on Monday, the 26th of July. You can go to emeraldworks.com to find out more. Take part to take control of your learning maturity journey. And thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time, everyone. If you have any questions, please do have a look at, we will have a look at the chat. So yeah, thank you. I think we have a question there from Chris related to the cost. No, there is no cost associated with doing the learning performance benchmark, and also in terms of accessing the research as well. All of this is provided to the community. As I said initially in the first part, we are community driven. We have an ethical statement on our website detailing exactly how we deal with data and your data, and also how we provide that back to the community in its totality in a way. Hi, Vicky. Just looking at the questions again. Yes, so the current benchmark is called Learning Health Check, but because of user research that Kerry and the team have done, we've made sure that we've improved the portal itself. We brought it all in-house under one roof, and as a result of that, the user journey is much easier. The data is much more protected, and as a result of it, it's an easier route to getting the results that you need.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you both for showing us your learning performance benchmark. It's definitely really interesting stuff, and it was fascinating to hear all the research that's gone behind pulling this together. So I suppose I'm looking at this now as kind of someone that was, an ex-L&D manager and trying to move an organization forward and make sure that we're all at the cutting edge and doing the right things. So how is this going to help people in L&D that are sitting, trying to help and be helpful to the people in their team so that they can do their jobs properly? What's it going to do kind of tangibly for me? Tell me a bit more.
I can explain from a research perspective. I mean, the benchmark was literally created for what you just said, word for word. It was created as a method to first understand your position. Where are you in terms of maturity or whatever you would like to call it? And then from there, find out which actions, behaviors are most important for you to move forward. And as a result, the recommendation system within the LPB is tailored for that. We actually track over 140 behaviors within the LPB itself. We look at prioritizing, we look at digital technology implementation, the cultural aspect of it. We looked at employees themselves and how you see employees from an L&D perspective. all of that positions you on a curve in a way, and allows us to kind of recommend actions based on previous organizations. So we have to think of this data set as a longitudinal data set where we have several organizations doing it over a year, and we know what has worked for them. And if the size of the organization matches with yours, we'll know what to recommend as a result of it. So that's how we approach it from a research perspective.
And what sort of recommendations is the report going to throw out to kind of an L&D manager? Say an L&D manager that's working in retail. Give me some flavors of what sort of recommendations are going to come out the back end of this report to help them.
So the 6 areas that we look at relate to things like employee experience, learning impact, and again, based on your score, the behaviors related will be things like you need to work with your managers to set KPIs based on your context. So it will look at how you've answered those behaviors, see whether or not they deviate strongly from the average and your industry and your size. And as a result of you being either too low or too high, will tell you, you're doing this really great, or you're really behind on this. You need to think about it and how you need to approach it.
So it creates that real snapshot in time and recommendations that you can move forward from. And this is completely free to sign up to, you said.
Absolutely.
I know. Yeah, I know it sounds crazy, but in all honesty, it does help the industry and the community understand where everything is going. I think we sometimes lack an understanding of where have we been, what is the current times and potential future focus. Yeah, it's necessary, I would say, for the industry and the community to move forward.
It's absolutely necessary, and it's always been incredibly important. But after the last year where L&D has been thrusted to push forward in order to keep everything moving, we've been a really important cog in that whole network. So now is the best time to benchmark, to look at where you are and look at how we take things forward as well.
I agree, Carrie. I think that, like you say, I think the last 12 to 18 months has absolutely, we all had to get our skates on, didn't we? We all had to either pivot and do things differently, or we had to step in and support more people in this huge change that they've undergone. And actually now is the time to take that step back and have a look holistically at, where have we been, what are we doing now? And actually, as we move forward into hopefully some sort of new world, I don't want to use the phrases, that actually we can start to see, if we take that moment in time, where can we move forward? Because I think we are potentially in a position where we could keep knee-jerking. We've had to knee-jerk for a bit. So to take that moment is really important. I know on a session earlier this morning, there was a lot of chat around how in L&D we should be taking a step back and just looking at what we can do to move forward. And actually, what you've created here is real evidence-led based snapshot in time for every person working in L&D.
Yeah.
I mean, another thing to mention here is that you're also contributing by doing this to the research community. So all the data that we collect, we also publish reports based on it. So the annual benchmark report, for example, is solely based, not solely, but it's primarily guided by the answers to this diagnostics tool. And it provides invaluable insights into what is happening, what has happened before, what are major changes happening and shifts. We are publishing very soon the annual benchmark report, and already you can see things like pre-COVID and during COVID and the differences in proactivity in L&D teams and what that has meant for the structure. We know the organizations are rapidly changing. Nowadays, I wouldn't even think of organizations as just kind of very mechanistic entities, but much more about like systems of relationships and kind of communication channels across different service providers. I know the example of, for example, WPP, which has 100,000 employees, but several 100,000 freelancers. And they consider their workforce as an ecosystem where L&D now has to think about beyond just full-time workers. These things will not be highlighted if we do not look at what we're doing now what we've done before and have some strategic foresight in potential changes to the workforce. And that's what the LPB kind of underpins and why we're doing this.
I love that. And actually, one of the things that I love about working in the L&D community is that we absolutely want to help. We want to support. We're seeing initiatives like what you have all done, and actually, it's that contribution of talking and collaborating, and actually, like you say, contributing to research like this that better informs all of us. And I can see in the chat here that Nadia is just saying that now is the time to measure some of that impact over the last 12 months. Now is absolutely the time to do that. And I'm just going to read out here what Laura has said. So she said, interestingly, the characteristics of high performing organizations prior to COVID also seem to be those that have helped prepare us for more. I don't think I can say that word. I think it's beyond me. Sorry, Laura, I've let you down there. It's a very, very, very intelligent word. So looking forward to seeing how the benchmark data has changed. Yeah, so really looking at the journey that we've gone on here. What do you think about that, Carrie and Ghent? Or perhaps you can pronounce the word.
No,
I
think
can't.
first and foremost, just do a shout out to Laura Overton. Of course, she's
Definitely.
part of the legacy of this. I mean, she was the founder of the benchmark, so it needs to be said. In terms of seeing the data, I know she wants to see the data because
give me the data, she says.
I know this, but no, she's completely right. High performers have been much more prepared. When we measured the level of impact that COVID has had on L&D strategy change over time, organizations in top performing stage have had their strategy change very little because they were very, very prepared to be flexible and they were quite resilient in that sense. Whereas the low performing ones or the low maturity ones have had to drastically change everything, shifting things from classroom to online only. How they've done that, it may not be evidence-based, much more reactive in the sense. So again, I think the next year is going to be more exciting to some extent than this year, because this year has too many things have happened for us to know what's going on. And next year will be where we will see things settle. And I'm incredibly looking forward to looking at what's going to happen because there's a lot of things up in the air.
Yeah, a lot of lessons have been learned this year. And I think, it's really important to remember that this isn't just a snapshot at your particular industry, it's the whole world as well. It's completely global. So it's really important that we get a big enough snapshot to understand the large trends that are going through so we can help with the smaller trends as well. Everyone knows the importance of being able to be agile and to adapt to these kind of circumstances. But I think people tend to get lost in the detail of how do they actually do it? How do they work towards it? And that's what we want to try and use this data to do and shift the industry forward.
And so on that note, Carrie, because we've got lots of L&D people watching this and actually thinking this is interesting, what is the next steps for the L&D community out there?
The next step is, like Ghent has said, take a step back, look at where you are, breathe. It's been a really tough few months. A lot of sharp lessons will have been learned, I'm sure. And then do the benchmark. Actually benchmark yourself, see where you're at and see what comes out and see what we're saying and try it and use the data to base your strategy and push forward that and show value to your business.
Brilliant. And so the benchmark is available on the 26th?
Yeah, 26th of July we're launching. Please do take part.
26th of July, free for everyone to use. Come and use it for your own benefits, the benefits of your organization, but also the benefit of your community. And I can see here in the chat as well, Nadia is saying you've got a session on the 30th of June on the annual benchmarking report. So you can also sign up to that as well. So I don't know whether, Nadia, you're able to put the link to that in the chat so that everyone can see and make things a little bit easier. That will be really, really useful. Laura says she's on the move, predictive text taking over. So does that mean that wasn't a real world? And I'm not showing my lack of intelligence quite as much as I thought I was. Ariana's putting, where's the link? So if someone can pop the link in the chat, that's going to be really helpful, not only to the website so that you can get ready and prepare to do the benchmark, but also to attend the session, which will be really, really great to do. And I think Nadia is going to do that for you now. So do keep an eye on the chat. But you know what? This session is for all of you out there to ask questions. So if you have got some questions that you can pop into the question section there for Gent and Carrie, then that's going to be really useful. And Laura Overton is teasing me there, saying she loves some jargon. Yeah, don't give me big words to meddle with, Laura. I'm not good with these big words on a Friday. Be gentle, be gentle. So have you guys got anything to add?
Yeah, I was just going to say, Sarah, that probably if we think about this time, COVID and everything that's been going on, it is a fundamental change to our environment. And probably the only time in generations that we've had to really rethink the why, what, and how of L&D. It's probably the biggest opportunity that we'll ever get to really, really challenge legacy ways of working, because we've been forced to try new things. And so I would genuinely encourage that, experimentation without reflection it doesn't really work. So the diagnostics tool is exactly that. The benchmark is exactly that. It's just a moment for you to reflect back on what decisions you've made and whether or not you've missed something. I mean, again, you don't know what you don't know, and that's why so many people, when they do it, they say, "Oh, I haven't really thought about this angle at all. I didn't know it was this prevalent." And so, yeah, very much worth it.
And I agree with you again. I think that we have had it really has given L&D a huge opportunity. Some of the ways of working have changed so much because they've had to over the last 12 months. But to continue without having that stop, having that moment to breathe and think, and actually that was from one of Laura's slides this morning, that it's powerful, and if we don't take that moment, then we're doing ourselves a disservice to all the work that we have done. So quickly remind me before we wrap up now, I can see there's some links going in the chat, but what does everyone need to do next? Carrie and Gent, what's the next steps here?
On the 26th of July, go to emeraldworks.com/LPB and fill in the benchmark.
Brilliant. And on the 30th, there's also a workshop that you can attend there as well. And like Laura says, I'm just going to use Laura's words here because I can read these ones. I'm going to use Laura's words here to kind of pull the session together, because we can't slip back. We have to keep moving forward. So we have to take all the evidence, all the data, everything that we have learned to move us forwards to be even stronger and really seize the moment, like Laura says. Carrie and Gent, it's been an absolute pleasure. If you are watching this back, then do feel free to still get in touch with the chat, because it will remain live on the system. And I know that Carrie and Gent will be in the chat just seeing what everyone has been saying. It's been an absolute pleasure. I will definitely be going and having a little look and have a little benchmark, because it's important. It's important that we all contribute and we all gain from the great work that you're doing. So a great big thank you from me, but also from the whole of the L&D community for bringing this together for us. So thank you very much, and we will see you in the chat, I'm sure. Thank you, Carrie, thank you, Gent, and thank you for all the contributions that have been made.
Thank you, Sarah.
You're welcome.